Welcome to the Powell Bros movie reviews. We're here another week, another movie. Excited to be talking about this one. Going back to the early 2000s once again, to the not so bright days of Marvel. Yeah, reviewing another movie. This one was interesting. It had some good things, had some bad things, some weird things, like most of these movies during this age, during this time frame. I'm Trent. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined with my other host, Tobiah Powell. Welcome, Tobiah.
Yeah, thank you. Excited about this one. We got something a little different here.
What movie are we reviewing, Tobiah?
Yeah, we got Daredevil here, the 2003 version.
It's crazy how many. Well, so this one's 2003. Hulk came out in 2003, and X2 was that 2003?
X2,
Is that what
yeah.
we're watching?
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yep.
a lot of superhero movies came out this year. A lot of Marvel superhero movies. I don't know about what DC, because when did the Superman Returns come out? That was later, I think, later in 2003. I don't know if there was a Batman that came out. I don't think so. But anyways,
I don't know.
but as far as Marvel, yeah, we have these three movies out this year, and
Yep.
we're tackling our first one of 2003. I mean, Madam Web, which we reviewed last time, it takes place in 2003. Just might as well came out in 2003. It was just about that level of
Yeah.
bad. But anyways,
Yeah. All right. So like we were talking about before we started recording, something we overlooked was the fact that there's a director's cut of this movie, which I watched the director's cut and you didn't. So there's going to be some differences, but
right. And
yeah.
apparently the director's cut has 30 extra minutes of footage.
30 minutes exactly, 30
content.
minutes more.
That's,
Yep.
that's significant.
Yeah, for sure.
So
So I, in some ways, watched a different movie than you did. So
yeah,
I don't know if it was much better or worse than what you watched.
I didn't even know
but
there was a
we can
director's
kinda-
cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can just get into the story, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Where do you
What
want
was,
to?
your, what was your kind of initial thoughts of the movie?
So this might be one of my complaints is probably because it is the director's cut, but so the first two acts of the film for me were just very slow. The story wasn't progressing. There just wasn't much
There wasn't much of a
really
story.
going on. Yeah, there wasn't much really going on for Daredevil or Matt Murdock. He was just kind of living his life, fighting crime at night, doing his lawyer stuff during the day. Nothing was really connecting for a while. He was just kind of doing his thing, and there really wasn't
Trying to
much of a
figure out
story.
who
There
he
wasn't-
is
Yeah,
as the
Yeah.
Daredevil.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, he's unsure of himself, but even then, he wasn't. It wasn't like he was actively like searching it out. He was still just kind of living his life, doing his thing. He wasn't searching for answers. He didn't really seem to have much of a goal or mission or really anything for most of the movie. And then you get to, and that's the first two acts. And then you get to the third act where things actually do start to pick up. Things are connecting. The story of the two villains, the Daredevil and Matt Murdock, and just all these worlds are starting to collide. Elektra, all these worlds, and so things do start to kind of pick up towards the third act, and things do start to connect, and you do kind of see some of the puzzle pieces fitting together. And I think if you get through the whole movie, you're like, oh wow, that was actually, things made sense by the end. But the first two acts for me were pretty slow, and it was hard for me to keep my interest, especially when there wasn't much of a story.
Sure. So it sounds like the director's cut's not that much different from the original. It's just
Okay, yeah.
they probably dragged out the first two acts a little longer, I would assume.
Yeah.
Because similar complaints. I think the first two acts, it struggled to get its feet underneath it and kind of even have much of a story. They were introducing way too much, I felt like, And once you finally met Kingpin, I think Kingpin was like 40 minutes into the movie, and you hear about him, and like you can do that well. And I'm not saying they didn't necessarily do it well. It's just you have Kingpin, but then you also have this other side villain that's Bullseye, and so you're trying to figure out if he's going to be the villain. He's pretty flat. Don't know much about him. He's just bad at what he works for Kingpin, I guess, and. And they show that he's bad because he kills two people. He kills that old lady on the plane that was annoying him, and that was really weird. And then there was one. What was the first?
His whole character is really weird. He's just like a total freak, and not like in like a cool
Farrell
way or anything. It was just weird. It just didn't make sense.
Yep. So we had a Penguin and Batman appearance in this movie. With Ben Affleck and Colin Farrell, who eventually plays the Penguin, and then Ben Affleck is Batman, which it's funny. I love at the beginning of the movie where he says, "Oh, there's so many." Well, I mean, the whole thing about justice. I am justice. It's like, I hope justice is found today. Good. It's like okay, Batman.
Yeah. For sure.
Anyways, like talking story, like I think it was just all over the place and didn't really know what kind of movie it was and what story it was telling. Then you bring Elektra into it. She just adds a whole nother dynamic, and she kind of steals the spotlight for a while, and I didn't like that a whole lot. Where it's like now we're kind of watching a Elektra movie. Please don't tell me we have to watch the Elektra movie.
Yeah.
When does that take place? Is that like 2004, 2005?
Oh, I don't own it. I just have a little piece of paper marking it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like around that, like 2005, 2006 maybe.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one, because I've never seen it either, but I've heard it's awful. And if it was anything like her, if it was anything like Elektra's stuff in this one, it's going to be pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She annoyed me a lot. But anyways. So it didn't really know what it was doing, and I kind of disagree a little bit with what you said as far as like Daredevil not really knowing who he is or what he's doing or having much of a mission. He's trying to learn. He's trying to become a hero. This is kind of like it kind of reminds me of Batman year one, where he's new to the job and he's trying to figure out who he is, and you have that scene where he beats up this bad guy who works for Kingpin, and a kid sees him doing it, and the kid is scared of him and terrified, and he's like, oh, like I don't want to be that. I want to be the hero. I don't want to be seen as a villain. And and then you have the scene in the end with Kingpin where he's like, I'm not the bad guy. And it's like,
for sure. But I agree. Like that's what I was saying is it's in the first two acts that he doesn't really have a mission. Like it's that was hinted at towards the, like, I think it was like maybe one line, like it was that one scene with the kid. I think that was basically it, like as far as hinting it, that's what he was working towards. Like there's maybe a couple other hints
with the priest, like the stuff, the church scenes were kind of,
but a lot of it, a little bit. But a lot of it, in the third act, a lot of it, like I said, comes together, and you do see that that's what he was working through and all that. But I that's the problem with the first two acts is they didn't set these things up very well. It's hard. There was a lot going on. It's hard to follow that these things were being set up. Like you said with Kingpin, like they mentioned him a couple times, like, and you can do that well where you mention the bad guy and not show him, and he still has like a towering presence where he's evil.
Sure.
But the way they mentioned him is just like he's this bad guy and he runs everything, and that's it. Like there's nothing scary about him. And getting more into Kingpin, even when we saw his scenes, like, I mean, honestly, he just butchered Kingpin completely. But he killed a couple guys. I don't remember even why, but it was like for something dumb.
Oh, when was that? Was it like early on in the film?
When we first saw him, I think it was when we first saw him.
Oh.
In his office, and he killed like two of his guys or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Like that was like the first time we saw him, but.
But
just like they tried to make him like this really big bad gangster guy, but I don't know what it was, but there's just something I can't put my finger on it. He he just didn't have that evil,
It wasn't intimidating.
overpowering
They didn't. Yeah,
intimidation, especially that we
they
get
didn't give
with the
us
other
enough.
Kingpin and the other show.
Yeah,
But not to compare,
right.
but
Like showing a villain being willing to kill his own men isn't like that appealing, or like it doesn't help us.
yeah, it's
We're
not
not
like
scared of him.
evil. It's
Like
just an evil
that's
guy
kind of typical.
killing evil
Yeah,
people. Like,
right.
okay,
If he does something to like,
well,
obviously we know that
let's
he
put Bullseye in this situation. They did well making him
sure
evil, and like I mean a
sure
psychopathic evil crazy guy, which is actually pretty accurate for
sure
what Bullseye is.
sure
Bullseye is a
yeah
psychopath, and he is supposed to just be an insane man that just kills kind of
mm-hmm.
because he loves it. But like when he kills that old lady, we like hate him because he's killing this innocent lady that's
Yeah.
just trying to talk
Right.
to him.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of the other people he killed, I can't think of any that were very impactful,
Because like one thing Kingpin
but
does
he
well
was
is he
killing like more innocent.
yeah he like bribes and manipulates people. Like he obviously manipulated Matt Murdock's dad to try to throw the fight and whatnot, and he didn't throw the fight, and so he kills him. So like we obviously find that out later in the film that it was Kingpin, though it's kind of pretty obvious for us. But like made more of that, and like seeing that like he's willing to manipulate people and to, which is what Kingpin does, and he's very he plays the politics, but also bribes and gets people to do his bidding and blackmails and threatens them if they don't. They kind of did that with Elektra's dad, so that was I think done for the most part well, and that we recognize okay, this is billionaire that he's able to manipulate and eventually send Bullseye out to kill him. But maybe it would have been better if Kingpin was the one that killed him instead of Bullseye. But they did the whole thing with Daredevil, so that made it seem like Daredevil killed her and then killed him, and then so that Elektra and Daredevil can fight, and which was kind of we'll get to that a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So Kingpin, I think, has struggled a lot with his character. Because one thing, like we're gonna compare this to the Daredevil show, because the Daredevil does a lot of most of the things right that this movie does wrong. Especially with just helping us get to know the Matt Murdock character better and to understand his motivations and his desires and his struggle with trying to figure out how to take responsibility for the powers that he's been given. And, a lot of what we were talking about with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's been given
sure.
these powers, and so with that comes a lot of responsibility, and so he's wrestling with that, and he recognizes the hardships that come with being a hero and the consequences of that and the relationships that have to be lost. And so we just get that a lot in TV show. Yeah, it's a TV show. It's drawn out a lot more, but they do it well. And then Kingpin, they do such a wonderful job at making him intimidating physically, but also recognize like he's able to manipulate people and to do his bidding and work for him and to do things that he wants to be done. And he moves all the pieces around so that he can build his empire. And they just do such a good job throughout that show, establishing him as a villain, and then but contrasting him with Daredevil and watching Daredevil grow and struggle and so forth. But this movie definitely lacked that in some ways.
Yeah, for sure. No, and well, yeah. One thing about this Daredevil that was interesting was that he just killed a guy, like straight up
was
killed
weird.
him with the train. Like he's
killed a
struggling
couple
with,
guys.
am I the good guy? And he just lets this guy die, like right in front of him. Like, I mean, he killed him. Like he absolutely killed him. And
Right, I
just
was like
very
really
surprising.
confused. I was like, wait, like, what are they doing here? Like, are they actually like just showing that he's actually struggling with whether or not he should kill these people, or is he just like straight out like, I'm killing you and I'm gonna make jokes about it? Like, because I think he cracked the head like a wisecrack or something.
I know.
Oh yeah. Oh, what was I wrote it down? It was so bad. He said, "You see that light at the end of the tunnel? That's not heaven.
Oh yeah.
That's the C train." It's like, what? I think. Okay, so yes, there were bad superhero movies with male leads in the early 2000s. Okay, we're not always hating on female-led superhero movies, though it's easy to. Yes, Madam Web was awful, and that dialogue was awful. Daredevil also had very awful dialogue.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
now there's a line. Okay, I realized this when I was watching this. There's a line for superhero movies where you can have cheesy dialogue, like, because they're based off comic books. Comic books have a lot of cheesy
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Wisecracks from the heroes, jokes that are for kind of for kids, and like silly things that happen and that are said that, like, okay, you can chuckle at it. It can be a little cringy and corny at times, and it's hard to translate that into movies. Spider-Man, I think, does it well. Has done it well with all his adaptations.
Well,
Where
did
he's
it better than this movie?
better in this movie.
I don't know about
Daredevil, like, he had a lot of wisecracks throughout it, but it didn't land. It was very jarring. It was cringy.
Yeah.
I
Didn't
I
fit
like
the
it.
tone of Daredevil. It didn't fit the tone of the
Oh
movie
my!
they were going for.
Talk about the tone of the movie,
And
the music. Oh my goodness, that was so annoying.
Yeah.
Like every, like, early 2000s heavy rock music, Nickelback was playing. It's
Oh yeah,
it was,
I know.
it was so bad.
I think
It's
they played
so
like
bad.
3 of their songs.
Yeah. but it just didn't fit. Like, every time a song would start, and like it'd be like during action scene, you would just have songs with lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a score. These are songs with lyrics. Or like the funeral scene. It feels like you're watching a bunch of music videos from the early 2000s as you watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's silly.
For sure.
But anyways, going back to what I was saying, you can have cheesy dialogue in superhero movies, and I can let it go. This one just had it was just over the top, and Daredevil, I think there's just a lot of things that were said that were just like, that was pretty rough. Some of the dialogue between Elektra and Daredevil was pretty rough. I don't think they had really good chemistry. That park scene stands out like a sore thumb. That was so weird. At the beginning of the movie, where he meets Elektra, for some reason he can sense her when she walks through the door and sense that she's a beautiful woman,
yeah.
and then he follows her. He stalks her into the park. He grabs her and tries to get her to tell him her name, and then they have this weird dance fight in the middle of the park. It was so strange, and then they get along afterwards, and they're all friends. And then the next time they meet, they fall in love, and it didn't work for me. It was weird. I just didn't think they have good chemistry. A lot of their dialogue together was weird and rough. I like Daredevil and Foggy's relationship, and even their dialogues that was fine. Foggy, I felt like he didn't do much in this movie. He was just there.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think he did anything.
Yeah.
Like, he maybe helped Daredevil a little bit, like, process things, but he was just like, I'll meet you at the coffee shop and just talk about life, and that's really all he did. So, like, usually when you have a side character like that, you especially in the third act, you utilize him and allow him to help you. He's the guy behind the desk, or behind the desk, or behind the.
Well, I feel like
the computer.
Maybe he was like, I think maybe he was because he's like the side of him that's like the Matt Murdock side. So like, if the movie was like about him having a struggle between being a superhero and managing his real life, and now he's failing in his real life, which they do touch on that he is failing in his real life, but it wasn't like a major theme in the movie. It was just kind of like, that was like the point of Foggy even being in the movie, and it never went any deeper than that. Then like, he didn't show up to court that one time, and he's missing a few other times, and Foggy's like, we need to talk to this guy so that we can basically be successful. I guess they did touch on it pretty big, because they even like, because like they weren't getting paid for a lot of the clients, because Matt was trying to do justice by just serving the clients that told the truth.
Yeah.
Innocent people. So it kind of tied into like him trying to be the good guy and just working with innocent people, and then Foggy was just kind of just taking the brunts of it by dealing with their finances. And he's like, we can't afford anything, we're broke, we need real clients, we need real clients that actually have money. And like at the party, he's like, we need to talk to Wilson Fisk. He's a rich man. We could be his clients. I mean, we could be his lawyers. He could be our client. We could make a lot of money. And then Daredevil just talks to him. He's like, I don't deal with,
I
I don't work
only
with criminals.
with guilty people, or no, yeah,
I don't work
people
with
that
guilty
I don't
people,
work with
yeah.
people that aren't innocent of that.
Yeah, he like just straight up says that. It made like no sense.
okay.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, there was a little bit of tie-in with that, I think, and I think that's what the point of fogging it in it was, but they didn't really capitalize on it. I don't think, like, they never really worked on him being like him struggling or even acknowledging. I don't think he ever acknowledged that he was, failing in his personal life. I think that he just kind of swept it under the rug, even though it was kind of like a sub theme in the movie, but he just never actually capitalized on it and never actually
Right. Yeah.
fixed that or did anything about that.
Yeah. And anyways, like there's a lot of like cheesy things about this movie, and yes, like that's one of my big complaints about something like Madam Web. However, with Madam Web, it was like almost every line of dialogue that was just cheesy, and I had issue with. This one, like there were some interactions and things that I was okay with, and I think they worked. It was just some of the wisecracks and quirky jokes that Daredevil makes, and then some of the dialogue between him and Elektra, and even him and Kingpin. So him and the villains as well, like just how he interacted with the bad guys. It's like it was rough. Anyways, on top, I guess if we want to keep going in that direction, what do you think about? I mean, CGI. It was pretty typical to what we've seen in these 2000 movies. You have every time there's like overused CGI when the hero is like jumping around and whatnot. Like it's just a little like
we definitely saw
animated
that
guy going where.
Yeah, it definitely had. I mean, you could definitely tell this was made during the same time as Blade. Like very very similar CGI and action scenes and stuff like that.
One thing, at least in the first half of the movie, I really hated all the action scenes because you could never follow what was happening. You had like the three perspectives of Daredevil, where it's our perspective of the fight, Daredevil's sonar perspective of the fight, and then his deaf point of view of the fight, where you can't hear anything. And it's like it was just I really had an issue with it because or not the deaf. Wait, blind.
Yeah,
he's blind. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. What was the third perspective? Whatever. Where like he's able to he has his super hearing. So that's it. So he's super hearing a part of the fight where you hear like the littlest things that are happening. And he's able to calculate and whatnot. But it was like always jumping between those three, and it was just like it was hard to follow what was going on. And then when the action's actually happening, the camera shots are like jumping all over the place, and it's just like. One thing I like about the Daredevil show is that like they did a lot of one shots. They lingered on fights and fight scenes and allowed the actors to just do their choreographed fights and it was great action. It was fun and exciting. This one, even the choreography was rough. There was a lot of issues I think I had with it. Like the fighting wasn't that great, and Elektra's fighting was awful. She's like Jennifer Gardner's. She was not a good fighter. So even when like she did the training after her dad died, and she's like, I can't remember what song they played, but I can't remember the name of the song, but where she's like slicing the bags and whatnot. Like it was really weird, like how she was fighting. It was like I don't think she knows what she's doing or has been trained very well. And,
okay, I need to talk about this. So I think those are called sais. That is not how sais work. They're not blades. They don't cut things. And I don't know why she was cutting the bags. They're defensive weapons where you don't stab with them or cut things with them.
Right.
You maneuver the weapons that are being attacked at you or people's limbs or whatever. It's not a cutting weapon. I don't know why they had her
That's funny.
using them as cutting weapons. It's not what they are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do want to touch on Bullseye probably quite a bit more.
Okay.
I don't know. What did you think of just like his overall character and his arc and all that?
I thought they did a good job at kind of establishing who this character is, and he is a psychopath. He works for Kingpin. he lives up to his name. He always hits the bullseye. He never misses. It's his thing. And they help us establish that when we first meet him with the darts, and then he kills that. Oh yeah, that was the guy. He kills that guy in the bar.
Oh yeah.
And no ramifications, I guess, and he's able
Yeah,
to
I
just
know.
walk out. He killed him in front of everyone, but anyways.
Yeah.
So my biggest issues though with him was you didn't really know his motivations. I mean, you saw that okay, he's just evil, but he didn't have any really character motivations. The only motivation they really gave him was when Daredevil, when he throws that, I think it was a ninja star at him, and Daredevil is able to block it, and he's like, I never miss. And then because he said something to Kingpin where he's like, he made me miss. It's like I'm gonna end him. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like, so that was kind of a motivation to go back after Daredevil because Daredevil kind of humiliated him, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot more to his character than that,
For sure.
And like they got the psychopathic killer down, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's kind of all they got down with him. Like you're saying, like his motivations weren't really there. I want to go back to comparing to the show. Like in season 3 of Daredevil, Bullseye's in it, and he has he has a great character arc. You see his motivations very clearly. You see him going from, I mean, of course he's already Bullseye's already a psychopath in this, but you see him falling from being an FBI agent to a psychopath under Kingpin's reign, and it's just like a great transition and into him being crazy. And it's a lot of his motivations are for this girl that he really likes, that he's stalking,
and,
of course, because he's a
Kingpin
uses and Kingpin
that
manipulates
to manipulate him.
He manipulates that so that he does end up becoming a psychopath. Like he could tell that, like, oh, this guy has issues, I can actually use that to turn him into a psychopath and be my new killer. And
which is one thing that they did really well with Kingpin in that show.
Yeah. For
like
sure.
on top of Bullseye.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
And so there just wasn't any motivations. And even like when we first see him, I don't know if you noticed, he doesn't say a single word. Like we see him for like 5 minutes and he doesn't say a single word.
Yeah,
he goes like, we see him at the bar, he kills that guy, we see him on the plane, he kills that lady, and eventually he says something, which I'm pretty sure it was something really dumb because I remember laughing at it because it was so dumb. But
yeah, most of his dialogue, what little dialogue there was pretty dumb.
So they get this psychopath side of him, right? But even beside that, like I feel like even the psychopath needs like some sort of motivation, like because like even Bullseye in the show, like he had a motivation to kill Daredevil because like he was under Kingpin's reign. Kingpin wanted Daredevil out of the picture, and so there's just all these factors going towards him to kill, or I don't remember what it was, to kill or defeat or take over as Daredevil. But there's motivations even for him to fight Daredevil, and there just wasn't really any here. It just didn't fit well. But although I do think he was more of the villain than Kingpin was for this movie. I think in the third act when we get to the fights of the villains, like the fight with Bullseye was much more impactful and much more like, edge of your seat interesting compared to the fight with Kingpin, because like Kingpin's like not even in the movie really. He has a few scenes. We have nothing to hate about him. Like he didn't do anything super evil. He's not manipulating anything. We don't see him doing anything. And then we get to this fight because he's like the big bad, so of course Daredevil has to kill the big bad, but we as the audience have no interest in that fight. There's nothing going on. Like there's nothing really at stake. There was nothing.
Well, yeah, they do show that he manipulated everything somewhat well, because
with the court cases and all that.
The court cases, Elektra's dad and Elektra, like he said, like I had to kill your girl as well. Like so, making it clear was it Bullseye that killed her? I think it was Bullseye. Yeah, it was Bullseye
with her.
So anyways, like he actually told Bullseye to kill her So it's like,
Which
okay,
was actually
yeah,
a pretty good it was actually a really good representation of a woman in a fight against a man. Like, she did not last at all.
oh, she didn't know. True.
Like
But also said, like I said, she's
there
not
were,
a good fighter.
yeah, no, she was a terrible fighter.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love Daredevil. Daredevil's become one of my favorite superheroes over the years, mostly because of the TV show. But
Yeah,
like
for
also
sure.
like some of the stuff in the comics and whatnot. And I wanted to like this going into it. I had seen it. It'd been quite a while since I'd seen it, but I wanted to like it. It had a lot. I did have a lot of issues, and like one thing I like about Daredevil, the character Daredevil, is his struggle with wanting to be just and pursue justice
Hmm.
and do the right thing,
Yeah.
but wrestling with the fact that he's a vigilante who's having to he's watching unjust things happen to people, and now
Hmm.
he's trying to want to step in and take justice in his own hands and do the just and right thing. But then he recognizes the consequences that come with that, and him having
Hmm.
to wrestle with those things and whatnot. It's good. Like we talked a little bit about this with Punisher. That's one thing I love about Daredevil season 2 is them bringing in the Punisher and just seeing the contrast between Punisher and Daredevil. Punisher is willing to kill people. His motivations are mostly revenge, where Daredevil's is somewhat revenge once he figures out like what happens to his dad and whatnot, but also more along the lines of wanting to pursue justice and do the right thing and take care of those who are
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
wicked and evil towards others, and so
Yeah.
like I appreciate the contrast that they do and a lot of the struggles that they give Daredevil in this show. This one, they tried to do it, and I think it fell short in a lot of ways, and
Hmm.
they struggled with really working through that. They wanted to help us see the struggle that he was having, but like like I said, like when he kills that guy on the train, when he kills Bullseye, I mean Bullseye survives and credit scene, but he throws him out the window, and he didn't have to do that. And then 5 minutes later, he's given an opportunity to kill Kingpin, but he doesn't. And the reason he does it is because he says, "I'm not the bad guy." It's like you just threw Bullseye out the window. You killed a guy early on, and it's like I don't know. It's just like, did he actually learn anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was odd, and
Yeah. Yeah, because
I
there
mean,
was a question.
yeah,
One of the main themes was for him too was if he should show mercy. Like that was one
mm-hmm.
of his questions that he was struggling with. Do I show mercy? And
Yeah,
and yeah, so that it is funny that like at the end he does just kill him and he doesn't
mm-hmm.
show mercy.
Right. He
And
doesn't.
it seemed like he was going towards that, and he kind of does in like his story, but like his actions didn't really show prove that he actually is
Mm-hmm.
gonna change. I feel like there was a lot of different things because there's also like they also set up in the beginning of the movie that like he had to be fearless, and that he was struggling to be fearless too, and
Mm-hmm.
that was another thing that they just kind of like forgot about and like didn't really touch on.
Well, that was a key theme throughout the movie was that of fear and
Right.
faith, and they touched on it a little bit. I was because I was watching for that throughout the whole
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's like, okay, you guys you set up this theme and
Yeah.
foreshadowed it. It's like, how are you going to fulfill it? And they didn't do much with
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and didn't really put a big emphasis on his fear. Even with the Dark Knight of the Soul, which if you want to, we can jump into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, I guess I'm actually curious where you would put it. I'm pretty sure I would say it was right after Elektra dies, and he's kind of pretty broken up over what just happened, and he's recognizing his failure,
Yeah.
and so there's some fear. Well, I don't even know. It's more of like just the responsibility that comes with being the hero. It's like people are gonna get hurt. Elektra, she dies, and he takes responsibility for that, and
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't able to save her, and so maybe his fear of not being able to save those that he loves.
Yeah. So I'm
I
trying to
don't know. Yeah,
remember
go ahead.
when she died. Were they in the church?
No, they were
So remember
on
in
they
the
were on a
remember
roof.
it wasn't the roof of the church. Also, remember when he
maybe.
falls through the roof of the church into the building, and then the priest comes over? Like they showed that scene
Right.
in the
That was
beginning, and then they
so at the beginning. That was
that's that
after she died.
right after she died. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
so. Yeah.
because that's kind of where it kind of seemed like that was the Dark Knight of the Soul, because he
Hmm.
literally falls to, like he literally falls and figuratively
Hmm.
falls,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the priest is there to help him up, which is
Brings
actually
up.
very
Yeah. Yeah. There
symbolic.
was. It was very symbolic. That so you see death and resurrection there,
Yeah.
and I did notice that, and I did like that a lot. And like one thing, after that, Bullseye says to him, they call you the man without fear, but he's applying that he's just a scared little man or something, which you kind of get a little bit, and I think he overcomes that, but it's more I think more of a fear of. I guess that's the question I was asking. Like, what is it that he's afraid of? I think it's him being a failure. It's him not being able to save those that he loves, not being able to take responsibility, and
And not to be good, like he's scared
and
of
well,
not
yeah,
being
yeah,
good,
not,
like
right,
with the kid
right,
and all that, like that was like a fear. And yeah.
yeah. So I mean, there's some good aspects of the third act that I liked,
Yeah, for sure.
and that I think brought some of the his arc full circle.
Yeah,
And he
by
learns in
the
the end
third
what kind of
act,
hero he is. Yeah, good.
yeah, by the third act, I was in the first two acts. I was like, man, this movie is just awful. But by the third act, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is getting better. Things are getting tied together better, and even after we're talking about it, we're kind of seeing how it actually tied together a little better than we thought, because like we are saying,
Hmm.
like with the fear, he actually was having fear of like of not being a good man, so that fear was kind of still tied in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they did kind of have that in there too. But yeah, things were actually coming together. Almost every aspect of it was getting touched on. There's, I mean, a few things that they kind of left out,
Hmm.
but yeah, the third act I thought really tied the movie together better than
For sure.
went through a lot better than the first two acts.
Was there like, well, I guess I have no way of knowing this. I always wonder how much like I really want to know what it is they added in the director's cut, and I can maybe look into that
Yeah,
a little more. But I wonder if it was more action, because like the action, like I said, it was pretty rough, and really a lot of it was rushed, and it's just like a lot of things happening, and it's hard to follow, and
they
it just had a lot of
I'm
issues.
sure they added a lot of action.
Yeah.
Speaking of one, there's one scene that I know they added, so I didn't know this was in it. So if you're watching the director's cut, be cautious of this. There's one scene of partial nudity that was not in the
Oh.
original. So I don't know if
Okay.
I don't know if this version was rated R or not. I mean,
Uh
it
huh.
wasn't full nudity or anything, but just be cautious of
Yeah.
it. And
Okay.
but we can get into sexualization too. I mean,
Yeah. Totally.
it was definitely there in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't know, because that whole scene that I'm thinking of was where it was in the no, it's Daredevil. Is when Daredevil was it at the biker gang, or was it a biker gang?
Sure. Yeah.
They're playing
I
pool, I
think.
think, and then he was like hiding up in the thing, and they're like, "What's that guy doing up there?"
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's that scene. There was a
Oh,
few
okay.
shots where like women were dressed skimpy, and then there's
Oh.
the scene of partial nudity, but
Okay.
I don't know if any of that was even in your cut.
I don't remember the bar scene. The only thing I could think of was Elektra and how she was dressed throughout the movie, and they have that
Yeah,
the sex scene, which, like I said, like I didn't see much chemistry between them, and it was just kind of felt like it was forced, and yeah, they
yeah,
have sex, so it's like yeah, you could skip all that. By the way, it's like it doesn't really matter to
yeah,
the plot or the story. Like most of the scenes, it's just yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's sexualization of women. It's a false view of sex, and one that's not beautiful and not good,
yeah,
and
for
it
sure.
should be avoided. And then yeah, like I said, they sexualize Elektra a lot, and just her,
Oh yeah,
how she's dressed and whatnot. And it's just pretty
yeah,
annoying, and you get that a lot with these superhero movies, and they feel like they need to do that with the women in these movies in order to make them seem like girl bosses and make kind of create this persona that they're just like the male heroes. They're just the female version of these heroes. Elektra is a female version of Daredevil in some senses. I mean, she's not
right.
blind, but like, however, I liked that they. One thing I did like about this is that they killed her. Not that I didn't like, not because I didn't like the character, but just for the sake of the story and the impact that it had on Daredevil. Like I didn't expect, I couldn't remember if they killed her. Like I know they killed her in the TV show, and then of course the hand brings her back to life, and apparently the Elektra movie is them bringing her back to life.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so she does die,
Yeah.
because that scene at the end was a little confusing with the Braille necklace. It made it seem like he thought that she was alive.
Yeah.
She probably was, but she was resurrected. I don't know what they're going with. But anyways, she actually died. That's what I was wondering. Like, okay, did they kill her off or not? I was expecting her to just pop back up, and it was like, no, she's actually dead. It's like, good, because a lot of superhero movies are afraid to do that sometimes, and I think that's something that superhero movies struggle with, and because when you do kill a character like that, it has a massive emotional punch, and it helps the character struggle and overcome that struggle in a lot of ways. And I think they did all right with this one, and I'm just glad that they actually stuck with it and they did, leave her dead.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of the impact that it had on Daredevil and the ways that it helped him overcome his fears and whatnot. So
yeah, that worked out well, but like her just as her actual character was just not that great.
No.
But I think, do you have anything else to get on with the story?
I don't think so. That's probably about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to kind of get into casting and acting.
Okay.
I thought every single character that was cast in this movie was just awful. I don't think anybody was well fit for their character. Maybe the priest. The priest was good.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, even Daredevil's dad, like making him a drunk and stuff. Well, I guess not making him a drunk. I think he is supposed to be a drunk, but no, this isn't really cast or acting. I guess it's more on character. It's just something I forgot about that I wanted to touch on, was just his dad. And like his dad still does like the hero thing for him and does sacrifice himself for his son. It was less impactful than the Daredevil show. I know we're just completely comparing this to the Daredevil show, but like his dad, like they first introduced him as kind of like a jerk dad, and then they kind of introduce him as like a buddy dad, and like the son like acts like he's not a jerk dad but is a buddy dad, and it just didn't really make it just felt inconsistent to me.
Interesting. I wonder if that was a difference in the director's cut, because the only thing about the jerk dad thing was he came home drunk, but he wasn't like harsh to his son or anything, or I don't know. I didn't that didn't come off.
Yeah,
for me,
I don't know. Maybe
it came off as just a broken man that is
right.
Is just struggling to care for his son. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
but anyway. You're right. Like I think there was some inconsistencies there, and Ben Affleck, I don't hate him as Batman. I think I actually liked him as Batman.
Yeah,
for the most part. I'm not sure how I feel about as Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, I think he's solid. But as an actor, I'm not a big fan of him. I don't think he was really the right fit for the Daredevil role.
Yeah.
Jennifer Gardner, she was very
horrible.
I did
Elektra.
not like her.
Yeah, she didn't fit
terrible.
Elektra at all.
No.
Kingpin, I didn't like him as Kingpin. I don't know what you think.
Jon Favreau as Foggy was good.
Oh yeah. I guess I guess that was pretty good.
That.
Yeah. Foggy was pretty good.
But I like Jon Favreau in anything, so
yeah.
Kingpin, obviously they
race swapped him. I feel like
the race swapped him.
That had anything to do with race. I think it was just literally the director's preference.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, it didn't, and that's one example. We've talked about this multiple times. Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson. Yeah. That's an example. There's instances where you can do that. Oh, Blade, where you can race swap and not make it all about race,
right.
And do a good job with it. And I like he was all right. Like physically, he's for the most part intimidating. And
I don't think
like
he was that great of an actor. I feel like he's just like a really
sure,
like I feel like the guy he's because the only other movie I can think that he was in was The Green Mile with Tom Hanks. I don't know if you remember that movie.
okay, yeah,
And he was like
I've seen him in a few
you know,
things.
he was like a
Yeah,
prison guy and he was like a tough guy, but he was also like a really nice guy. And like that was the point of that movie.
yeah,
And in this movie, like I felt like he was trying to act like a mean, tough guy, but I feel like it was just falling short.
uh-huh.
I don't know if it's necessarily the dialogue or not, but I don't think it was. I felt like just in the scenes he just couldn't get to that level of like just evil, and I felt like that felt short. That fell short in his acting and in the story, in his story. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like him as Kingpin. I just didn't think it really fit. I don't know if he's that great of an actor. I felt like he could have. I felt like if his acting was a little better, he could have done a really good Kingpin. And if the story was a little better, if the writing was a little better, if I feel like a lot of it was probably just a poor situation that he was put in. But yeah, he has like the the physicality was great for his character, but other than that, I feel like it all fell short.
Yeah, and Colin Farrell is Bullseye. I mean,
Yeah, that's again.
he's a good actor.
That's
he's good really anything.
Colin
he does.
Farrell will go all out with anything, and I mean
Yeah.
you can see that with Penguin. I mean, man, he did a great Penguin.
Totally.
But yeah, I think again that was just writing, acting, and it just it didn't really work. And then yeah, like we said, Elektra and Daredevil, I don't think either of them were good casting. But yeah, I think we can really tell that a lot of this, like this movie, was very poorly written. It was very poorly written in story, and pretty poorly in dialogue. And I feel like a lot of the characters each character didn't feel like they had their own. I just feel like a lot of it was just meshed together in similarities with problems for them, and that can come out through poor writing.
Yeah, and like I said, to give credit to the movie, it did tell a somewhat good story about him overcoming his fears and learning to be the hero that he is supposed to be, and then you get into the issues of justice, and we've talked about it in the past, and we know that justice and vengeance belongs to the Lord, and God's put certain institutions in place and spheres in place to bring out justice, and it gets tricky when we bring in heroes who are vigilantes who want to usurp or want to bring down the corrupt governments, the corrupt villains who are manipulating the justice system, and so you have that in real life. Like you have corrupt politicians, you have corrupt people in those places, and I like the Daredevil character in a lot of ways, in that he is wrestling with and trying to do the right thing, and find where the line is to not cross, and to in a sense help those that are trying to bring about justice. He's a lawyer as well, so like he's helping the oppressed and those that have been wronged, and so wanting to be and so that, which is also one thing I do like about the character, that you have the lawyer side of him and you have the vigilante side of him, and how those contrast and how those work together, and the struggle between both sides of that character. It's intriguing, and it's a good experiment on the issues of justice and how to be, how to pursue justice in a good way, in a right way, in a just way, and in a righteous way. And then also the religious aspect of Daredevil, and he is Catholic, and he wants to confess his sins, but oftentimes he's not willing to confess his sins fully. Like he goes to the priest just in this movie just so that he can be told that he's forgiven, and then go out and do the same thing because he killed the guy. I think that's what he asked for forgiveness for. but he wasn't really actually repentant. But I'd say by the end of the movie, I'd say he probably was repentant, and that he recognized, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the good guy, and I want to do the right thing. And so he sort of learns that by the end. It just, the story that was told didn't necessarily get us there very well. Even if we did end up there, just how we got there there's issues, and pretty rocky road along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess. So
yeah.
Anyways,
and then with because in his actions he does end up killing Bullseye, but
yeah, true.
But like the story is there, but I feel like with that scene it was almost like that was just like a bad writing mistake.
It was
like
yeah.
he just like, I feel like it's just there for like more action and more whatever, and not like it kind of does take away from what Daredevil learned, but I feel like it just wasn't. I don't know, maybe I'm giving too much credit to the writer. I don't know if he just like accidentally put it in there or what, but it just feels like it wasn't supposed to be in there. And whether it was like
sure,
the producers were like, no, we need to have this guy dead, or the writer just wanted him dead, I don't know. But it just kind of
but then he's alive at the end, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
Well, you want to move on to rating?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Let's add something else.
No, I think I'm all good.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, well, if you guys want to subscribe to our Patreon, we will go over the Stan Lee cameo and the end credit scene. We'll just kind of touch on those and talk about them a little bit, and then we will do a mini review, so you can listen to a review of sometimes a new movie, sometimes just some other movie that we watched or whatever, and just kind of hear a quick 10, 15, 20-minute review of a movie. And if you subscribe, you can also comment and give us suggestions of something you'd like to have reviewed, and we'll review it. So if you want to just support what we're doing, you can head over to Patreon and subscribe, and that'll help us out a ton, and it just helps us to be able to continue giving these reviews.
Yes.
So yeah,
please do.
Where were you thinking?
Yeah, I kind of wrestled with this one a little bit. I'm definitely thinking it's below 5. So I'm thinking, is it worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine? I'd say it is, just because a lot of the acting and dialogue and action scenes, but also the story, the problems with the story. And then the question is, okay, is it worse than Captain Marvel? I don't think so. I think Captain Marvel is probably worse, and so we don't have anything in that 4 range, and so I was thinking, I had a 4.6. That's where I have it.
Okay, I was thinking 4.8.
Well, there we go.
We could do 4.7.
Do 4.7 then.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Cool.
Good deal. Well, that was easy.
Agreed. That was a good one. Yeah.
Which one are we doing next?
All right, we are reviewing X2 X-Men Unlimited.
Sweet.
Yep. And
I am excited.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yep. So we'll do the second in the X-Men, the original X-Men trilogy. And then after that, you guys can expect Hulk and Punisher.
2003 Hulk. Yes.
And more to come. Yep. So that was our Daredevil review. Do you have anything else you wanted to say on it? I
don't think so.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate your support. Yep. That was Daredevil from 2003, and eventually we'll get to Elektra, the somewhat sequel of Daredevil that I don't know anybody who's ever watched it, but we will watch it for you guys and let you know what kind of movie it is. But in the meantime, next week you can look for X2, X-Men Unlimited. And yeah, we appreciate your support. Appreciate you listening. All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.